Welcome in to the second sad times as the Sacramento Kings joining you after the Sacramento Kings fall to the Indiana Pacers 107-104. Obviously no De'Aaron Fox tonight for the Sacramento Kings, and that's really was a major sticking point today. I think De'Aaron Fox's absence was a clear um, the absence was clear. It was very apparent that De'Aaron didn't play today, and the Kings absolutely needed him, especially in a clutch time situation where again the team finds themselves in a 5-point game with less than 5 minutes to go, and no main guy to go to in that situation. De'Aaron is Mr. Clutch for this team, and I don't think it was just in the clutch. I think it was throughout the entirety of this game. You saw how much the Kings missed De'Aaron Fox. Really, it felt like everything bad that happened tonight you could really attribute back to the fact that De'Aaron didn't play. I think the fact that for me a lot when the Kings were at their worst today, it felt like they were really just gunning from three, just getting not even open looks, just contested shots from three. And I think they really missed De'Aaron's ability to penetrate, get into the key, draw defenders, and get shooters open. And it's a little bit tougher for Domas as well when the other team can key in on him, and they know that not only is he their number one scoring option, but also their number one facilitating option. Then when he gets the ball in the high post, you can kind of sit back a little bit, make sure that nobody's getting beat baseline, not getting beat on cutters. And it was tough. You saw Mike Brown searching, saw some lineups that we wouldn't typically see. Terrence Davis started the fourth quarter at point guard, which was pretty crazy to see. That closing lineup we have not seen all season of Malik Monk, Kevin Herter, Trey Lyles, Harrison Barnes, and Domantas Sabonis. That lineup has played a grand total of 0 minutes before tonight, and that was tonight's closing lineup. It was really interesting. Keegan had frankly, Keegan had a pretty terrible night. Really couldn't get much of his offense going. Didn't make too big of an impact defensively or on the glass as well. He finishes off with 3 points tonight, which is really disappointing, especially with Fox not playing. You would kind of hope that Keegan can get a little bit more shooting opportunities tonight, but he finishes 1 of 6 from the field, 1 of 4 from three, 3.7 rebounds for the Kings rookie. Before I get into the negatives as well, I see that the first comment in here is Logan Ito, who is not happy about the play of Davion Mitchell. I'm definitely going to get to that in a second. I just really want to point out the fact that Harrison Barnes was terrific tonight. I have been somebody who has criticized Harrison Barnes a lot previously before this season, just about his level of consistency. I thought, the last stretch of last season when De'Aaron wasn't playing, when Domas wasn't playing, I expected Harrison to kind of up his game a little bit and be, the main option for the team and kind of see what else Harrison has in his bag. And, he really hasn't had to be that this year with just the amount of scoring options the Kings have. It's been really nice when Harrison has had his good moments, but it hasn't really been required for him to have that level of consistency. But tonight, a night where De'Aaron doesn't play, you knew that someone was going to need to step up and fill the scoring load, and Harrison 100% did that tonight. He showed a level of aggression. You could tell that he knew the team needed somebody else, led the team in scoring at the half, leads the team in scoring at the end of the game. So good on Harrison to keep that level of aggression throughout the game when they definitely needed him today. I thought Harrison was really good, and especially, he is so good at drawing fouls as well. He goes to the line 7 times today. That was huge, especially another huge thing that De'Aaron does that when he doesn't play, you're just not going to be able to replicate is De'Aaron Fox getting to the line and kind of slowing things down. So good on very, very good on Harrison, and big shout out to him for stepping up today. Where frankly, in the past, I would say on a night like tonight, he wouldn't feel any obligation to lead the team in scoring. And it was definitely a collective effort tonight. HB finishes with 23. Sabonis had 15. Herter had 16. Malik had 15. The Kings had 5 players finish in double digits. 6 players finish in double digits. 3 starters, 3 bench players. So it wasn't just Harrison, but a lot of guys stepped up offensively. But Harrison definitely to me was the biggest standout just in terms of difference of aggression. So now let's talk about it, Logan. Let's talk about this. And I see a lot of people in the chat here. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up. So it just, it helps this thing grow and helps people see that we're providing nice little post-game content as well. We're going 6 to 6 live and local here on Sactown Sports. And we're also providing you off the clock, little overtime segment here. So please be sure to hit that thumbs up. It means a lot and it does a lot for us. But let's talk about Davion Mitchell. This is, there's definitely, you're like, how there's the angel and the devil on your shoulder, Logan. This is definitely my inner devil speaking. Davion Mitchell is such a bad point guard. Learn to run an offense. Holy crap. That's definitely that's that's a little more harsh than I would care to be. But I agree with your point. I think tonight was a huge, massive. I cannot state how big of an opportunity this was for Davion Mitchell to really step up his offensive game tonight, and he in no facet of the game offensively did he have it. Finishes 1 of 5, 1 of 4 from 3 in 22 minutes. Last year a lot was made of Davion's run at the end of the year, aforementioned when Fox and Sabonis were out to end the season. Davion really did carry quite a bit of the offensive load. Him and Damian Jones showed a nice chemistry, nice 2-man game. Davion excelled in the pick and roll. But this season, when we see the Kings are running a lot more high post action, a lot more running and coming around screens and durable handoffs and cutters, Davion has not been able to really, get accustomed to the role of being a spot up shooter. He's a guy who really likes to dribble the ball and gets his shots off the dribble. And it's tough for him to catch and shoot and really just not have the ball in his hand as much as he wants. I think he's just never had to play that role, especially being as small as he is, 6 feet. On a good day, he just really hasn't had to play much off ball during his career. And it's the only way he's going to be able to survive in the NBA here, to be honest. I mean, his defense goes without, it goes without mention. We all know what Davion provides on the defensive end. He's an incredible on-ball defender, creates great pressure. But, Davion tonight finishes with 3 points. Tyrese Halliburton, to Davion's credit, did really struggle tonight. I wouldn't say it was because of Davion Mitchell, but Tyrese finishes 4 of 12, 2 of 7 from 3. If you're not going to score, at least make sure your opponent doesn't score. I get that, but Davion's got to be better offensively if he's going to have realistically any shot to be a professional basketball player for another 5 or 10 years, however long it could be. He's not going to be able to find the floor if he can't figure it out offensively and, not have to have the ball in his hands. I think even if he were to get dealt to a different situation, I don't think Davion Mitchell is necessarily, the best option as a backup playmaker either. I think tonight is another prime example where it doesn't have to be scoring wise. Davion didn't have to come out tonight and score 20 points. He could have finished with his 3 points, but had 8 assists as well. Only finishes off with one assist tonight. So Davion's final stat line is 3 points, 1 assist, 1 rebound, no steals, no blocks, a -19. in the Fox plus minus tonight. So it was a disastrous night for Davion. Really could have had a nice opportunity to show that he has some game behind Fox. Even though De'Aaron gets a majority of the minutes, Davion could have proven that he has something to offer as well. And maybe if another team were to see this film, they potentially could have been like, wow, this is a guy that maybe he's hidden in Sacramento. Maybe he's just not going to get the kind of opportunity he deserves. But, on a night like tonight, you kind of see why the Kings are kind of not giving him much of an extended role outside of his 10 to 15 minutes that he plays when De'Aaron's not on the floor. Let's see. I'm going to the comments now. Street Thumper, absolutely. Fox is an integral part of this team and controls the flow of the team. Definitely. I think, I mentioned earlier how I think he affected the fact that the shooters weren't getting open looks. In general, too, it didn't feel like anyone was getting to the rim. Sabonis even struggled at the rim tonight. That's not something we commonly see from him, but there was really only one threat, and that was the perimeter tonight. Harrison Barnes did a good job of establishing the perimeter as a weapon, but Kings really struggled to get some action in the paint tonight. Do I have those final numbers? Let me see if those final numbers have dropped. Points in the paint tonight, 40 points in the paint for the Kings, 44 for the Pacers. So nothing crazy defensively allowed from the Kings. Points in the paint allowed has been a big major concern for this team this year. So good to see them only give up 44, but 40 points themselves also is not going to cut it. Let's see here. Not really concerned. They fought without Fox, so it's acceptable. I think this is I can't pronounce your name. Excuse me. Is that Caius? Caius? I think that's the most level-headed thing to take from this game. I mean, the Kings were without one of their star players for sure. You would have liked to see them pick up today's game. I think it's not unreasonable for them to win games without their stars. Last season, a team like Memphis is one that I'll point to where they were 21-3 without Ja Morant or something like that. You are capable of winning without your stars if you have a good enough system and a good enough players in that system to run it and kind of plug and play. But I think tonight we saw that without De'Aaron Fox, this team is completely different on the offensive end, as well as we saw that as well. Let's not forget in that Denver game that Sabonis missed a couple weeks ago, this team also looked incredibly different. So if they're without one of their stars, it goes without saying that this team is going to look a whole lot different. I'm interested to see if anyone does remember, if anyone has any opinion on do you think this team is worse on a night without Fox or a night without Sabonis? That's the question I will present here to everybody. Are the Kings better? And not even better, but which, if you had to go into a game, no Fox or no Sabonis, worse of two evils, which one is worse? Put in the comments which one is the worst case scenario. Not which one you would rather have. Which one is the more detrimental one to the Kings' success? Let's see here. Going back to the comments, please tell me why the Kings are trading for Pascal Siakam. Okay, that's interesting. Let me try and cook something up here. I've been a big proponent of them trying. If I were in charge, I don't know if it would be this season, but at some point soon here, either this offseason or the trade deadline coming up. Not this trade deadline, but the following one. The Kings should try and get a third star. I think the problem right now is, if you're going to trade for Pascal Siakam, it's going to involve Keegan Murray. It's going to involve Harrison Barnes, and it's probably going to involve a first-round draft pick, and that's just giving up a lot. And I don't know if the Kings are necessarily in a situation where, if you have Sabonis, if you have Fox, and you have Siakam, those are all really, really good players, but I don't know if that makes you ever a finals contender, if that makes sense. So I don't know if giving up everything, your future, your potential future with Keegan Murray, your draft pick, and Harrison Barnes. At that point, you also have no wings. So you're running, you have lockdown Herter, Fox, you have Siakam and you have Sabonis. So you're kind of still missing that small forward, and then somebody to back up that small forward as well. So I guess that's more of a reason why it won't happen. But if it is going to happen, it's because the Kings are really looking for that third star, and I do think that move happens at some point. I just don't know when it will eventually happen, but I think we will be surprised when it happens. I don't think we will know that the Kings are star hunting. I think the opportunity will just kind of present itself, like a lot of teams are finding themselves right now with this Kyrie Irving situation, where you really don't expect these guys to become available until they are. And I've heard whispers and rumors that Karl Anthony Towns is somebody who might be on the move at some point here soon. Trae Young could be somebody who Atlanta is looking to move here soon. So you never really know. At some point, like, does the Clipper situation sour, and are Paul George and or Leonard available? Just situations like that. You never really know when a star is going to become available. It's honestly, from Monty McNair's perspective, it's just about always being ready and always having assets ready to jump on when those opportunities arise. Because, like I said, you really don't know when these things are going to happen. But when they do happen, and when a star who would be perfect for your system does come up, you want to be sure that you have the pieces necessary to move. And right now, frankly, I just don't think the Kings really do have those pieces. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how Monty McNair goes about acquiring more assets, and what he does at this deadline is definitely going to be super interesting. I've been talking a lot recently about how it feels like there is a real possibility that this team does absolutely nothing at the trade deadline. And it's I think a real possibility that Kings fans need to be prepared for, because if you're not willing, I don't think they can trade Harrison Barnes right now. Keegan Murray's too early to give up on, and I think the Kings aren't upset at all with Keegan Murray's play. So unless it were to be for a big name player like Pascal Siakam, I don't see why the Kings would ship off Keegan Murray. Kevin Huerter's not going anywhere. Domantas Sabonis isn't going anywhere. De'Aaron Fox isn't going anywhere. And so at that point, your options, maybe we see Davion Mitchell moved at the deadline. That could be a possibility, especially with how he's playing now. They might. You never know. I mean, this is the trade machine. The trade deadline is a very fluid, active situation. So, situations like this where Monty McNair just sours on Davion Mitchell in as a potential starter, or anything more than a guy that they're going to give 10 to 15 minutes to, he could be a lot more willing to move him. So, this deadline, anything can happen. Going back to the comments here. Let's see. Trent Thompson, my guy, Trent Thompson. Does anyone know if Fox is coming back this road trip? I haven't heard. I think it's again kind of another fluid situation. A lot of people are speculating that De'Aaron's wife, Rasay, is in labor or having her baby. That seems to make the most logical sense, just because we know that De'Aaron's wife was due around this time, around All-Star time, and they said it was for personal reasons. A lot of people I've kind of said it without directly saying it, that it seems like it is for childbirth reasons, but I'm not going to go out there and say that's exactly what's happening. No, there's no word on his return. Let me pull up our schedule here coming up. If I'm not mistaken, we play the Pelicans on Sunday, and then play a back-to-back in Houston. So we play Sunday against the Pelicans, Monday in the first game against the Rockets, and then we play the Rockets again on Wednesday. So there's 3 more games left on this road trip. It is interesting that De'Aaron Fox is from Houston. So I don't know if that really is going to end up meaning anything, but potentially, maybe he if they're having their kid now, maybe De'Aaron stops by Houston, invites the family, and it could be a nice little introduction. Maybe family can meet the baby and all that. So there is no official word on when De'Aaron could come back, but I would imagine that if it's not Sunday, I can't imagine that if he doesn't play in the first Rockets game, he's probably just not going to play until they come back home on Friday with their back-to-back against Dallas. So let's see here. Pacers played last night. Kings couldn't be. This is a very legitimate fact. The Pacers were on the second night of a back-to-back. They did have a pretty crushing loss last night to the Los Angeles Lakers. They were up by 15 points in that game and blew a fourth quarter lead. Really could get nothing done in that fourth quarter. So, that was definitely front of mind for me today, especially in that fourth quarter as we were in clutch time. I was kind of like, here the Pacers go again. Like, are they going to choke on back-to-back nights? And, it's kind of unfortunate that the Kings did catch them on that, because I think, the Pacers were a little bit more sharp today and just had a little bit more focus and attention to detail in that fourth quarter because of the fact that they had just gone through it last night. So I think the second night of a back-to-back actually kind of worked out against the Kings in this situation. And the Kings have been really, really bad this season on the second night of a back-to-back. I don't have their record, but I do know I think they've maybe won one game so far this season on the second night of a back-to-back. So that's not good. We need a second string clutch god that we can trust. I think a lot of teams could use multiple clutch options. I mean, it's it's interesting. I guess Malik Monk, you could maybe say, is the Kings' second option in a clutch situation. I think 9 times out of 10 in any final shot kind of situation, De'Aaron's going to get it. And if I had to guess, the second option would either be Harrison or Malik. So yeah, I that's a fair shout. That's kind of a champagne problem, if you will, having to specifically seek out clutch players. But the more the merrier. Absolutely, Fox should be an all-star. If you want to hear my thoughts on that, you can tune in to Kings Weekly tomorrow at 11 o'clock from 11 to noon on Sactown Sports. 11:40. Why am I out of pocket? Why? Your name is Sticky Boxers, my guy, and you're calling me out of pocket? Okay. Um, um Sticky Boxers just keep saying that I am out of pocket and yet still has the username Sticky Boxers. This is okay. 3 points. 3-point loss. Davion had 3 1-1. It's okay, I think. I hear that. I definitely do. Again, I think this is probably the most safe mindset to be in, is where it's, the Kings didn't have a star, one of their stars, and they kept it close. And, with De'Aaron, they probably win that. And that's very fair. I just think, when this team is the number 3 seed in the Western Conference, you kind of just have a little bit more expectation on you at that point. And you should, in theory, again, if you're a top 3 seed in your conference, you should have the ability to overcome that, especially against the team in the Indiana Pacers, who have lost, or coming into tonight had lost 12 of their last 13 games. So under normal circumstances, sure, but again, with the fact that the Kings are such a high seed, and you just would like to see them kind of, it's fine that they lost. It is fine that they lost. It's not the end of the world. And the Pacers are a lot better team with Tyrese Halliburton than without Tyrese Halliburton. They were 6 games above 500, about 40 games in. With Tyrese, and then the second they lost Tyrese, as I mentioned, they lose 12 of 13 games without Tyrese Halliburton. So it's not you shouldn't be ashamed to lose to this Pacer team, but especially when the game was right there. I don't think the Kings necessarily deserve the win either. They played pretty poorly for a majority of this game, and they kind of found themselves lucky to be in it in the first place towards the end of the game. So it was kind of playing with house money a little bit, but it was a winnable game. I think you don't have to be super upset about it because they didn't necessarily blow the game, and there's the built-in excuses, but it's a very winnable game, and probably one that the players probably feel like they should have taken that one. Going back to the comments, Street Thumper says, when this team has all its players, they play well together and have great chemistry. I don't foresee any trades happening soon, and that's totally legit. And I think, that's I think the mindset of the front office. I don't think they're going to make any moves just for the sake of making moves. I think if that was the case, you'd probably see Harrison Barnes moved, a player who's on an expiring contract. So I definitely agree. And I think, the fact that Harrison is such a big part of the locker room, I think it's going to keep him here in Sacramento. And whether or not that's necessarily the best overall basketball general manager decision, I think it could be something that we end up debating in a couple of years. But I definitely think that the fact that they want to keep the continuity and really don't want to spoil this good season at all, yeah, I definitely think that those could be some major reasons why we don't see any moves made by the Kings at the deadline. Um, Yes, 2-7 when other teams are on the second night of a back-to-back. That's really bad. That is really, really bad, especially just with the built-in advantage of that team, in theory being more tired on the second night of a back-to-back, presumably not knocking down shots at the same clip on the second night of a back-to-back, and the fact that you yourself are probably not on the second night of a back-to-back. You should have fresher legs. Just that slight bit of advantage. The fact that they are 2-7 in those games really just kind of speaks to the fact that they are not taking advantage, and really they don't adjust their game plan at all. It might not. Your game plan sounds like a coaching thing. It's not even game plan. It's really a player thing of you have to know that these guys are on the second night of a back to back, and you just have to have a different kind of mentality, a different kind of aggression, and just kind of know that all the little tricks and things that you can do to kind of make guys a little bit more tired and wear a little bit more. That's the kind of stuff that and frankly, this team just hasn't been good before. And so those are the learning how to win in situations like that is part of being a better team, and going to be part of this team's growing experience, as we see hopefully for the next 5 or so years, as this team kind of builds and builds. They have to get better at small little things like that, and just kind of learning the ins and outs of being like one of the better teams in the NBA, frankly, which it's really crazy. But as we sit here with 30 something, I think 30 games left in this season, the Kings are still at the number 3 seed in the Western Conference. Like I cannot believe that every time I check, they're still sitting right there. It does not make sense. But yeah, I mean, they're new at this as well, so that they're going to have to learn a lot about winning. Let's see here. Sabonis and Mug 2-man game was rough. Usually it's good. Yeah, I agree. It's usually really good, and usually a something that you can rely on. But yeah, Malik and Domas really didn't have much of that 2-man game today. Wouldn't be surprised if Holmes is traded, though. This is interesting. Rashawn's problem is going to be, I don't think anyone's really jumping at that contract. I think I don't really know how many teams are going to want to trade for a backup center who makes $11 million a year. The Kings, it's not the fact that Rashawn's a bad player at all. I think a lot of people understand that it's the fact that he just doesn't fit into the Kings system. The Kings run a very, when you're the center in this Kings offense, you kind of are relied a lot to make a lot of decisions and set a lot of screens and just really be the center point of the offense. And that's not really Rashawn Holmes' game at all. He's a rim runner. He's great at pick and roll. He can set screens. He can catch lobs. He's good around the rim in terms of efficiency, but he's really not a playmaker. He's not a passer. He's not a shooter. He's not really even a natural scorer. So, he's a lot of teams, I think, understand that it is a big role is a big part of the reason he's not playing well. But I just don't think a lot of teams are going to want to sign up for trading for a guy that they just can't. It's so big when you can physically see somebody succeed or physically see somebody play the role that you envision them playing. When someone isn't playing at all, and when they do play, they play bad, and you have to try and imagine what they would look like in your system, it's just always going to be a harder sell to other teams. Malik's 5 turnovers were killer. That last turnover, you saw Malik at the end of the game, for those who watched the broadcast, was tapping his chest, kind of saying, my bad, my bad. And I think he was referring to that last pick and roll that him and Domas ran in the corner with under a minute to go, where Malik just kind of overshot Domas and threw it over his head and created a turnover in a situation where the Kings could have tied the game. So Malik's turnovers were really bad, but again, this goes all the way back to the beginning of, without De'Aaron Fox, people needed to step up and have the ball in their hand. It couldn't be Domantas Sabonis bringing the ball down the court and having literally running point guard. Someone else was going to have to kind of be that secondary ball handler, that secondary playmaker. And Malik, to his, has probably been the team's third best playmaker and ball handler this season. So it made sense for him to kind of step up in that role. But he did not play well tonight. And I think it was a good example of why the Kings might need to kind of look for that backup, a true backup point guard. Again, I don't know if it can be at this deadline, but this offseason or next deadline, we might be seeing the end of Davion Mitchell at the backup point guard, because I just don't think that's going to be a long-term solution here. And I think a night like tonight really highlights why. I'm going to wrap it up here as we're reaching the half-hour mark. Still going to go to the comments and probably just until those die out, we'll stay on. Malik Monk playing backup. Yeah, I mean, essentially, I thought it was interesting. I didn't mention Terrence Davis playing backup point guard for the start of the fourth quarter. Thought that was interesting. Does anyone know what's going on with Davion? I don't think it's necessarily anything going on with him. I think, like I kind of mentioned earlier, I think he's just a lot more like Rashawn. He's just more of a pick and roll kind of ball handler, and really is struggling to fit into this current King system where he's really been relegated to just a catch and shoot guy. And Davion, who is by no stretch of the imagination a knockdown 3-point shooter, has had to really kind of change his game and rely on that catch and shoot ability being his main way of scoring. I think tonight all of his threes were off catch and shoot, were off wide open attempts. He just really couldn't knock it down. So I think just the system the Kings run, much like Rashawn, just isn't for Davion Mitchell, and it's not necessarily his fault. But with the way he's playing, it's just, if he's going to be offensively as poor as he has been in recent games, and with this uptick in minutes, he's not going to be able to have a role for much longer. I mean, really, I think the Kings can afford to not make that move right now at the deadline, but they're kind of hamstrung because they can't trade Davion Mitchell at this deadline, because Matthew Dellavedova would then be the backup point guard for this team. So I think they kind of need to bring in another guy to be ready to fill in that role. And who will that be? I don't know, but I think a guy like DeLon Wright or something like that, someone who the Kings have had before, would be a decent option. But that's just my 2 cents. Let's see here. Amazing words. Fox can win without Sabonis. Sabonis can't win. Fox can win without Sabonis. Sabonis can't. Sabonis should have taken over. I definitely thought this for a little bit tonight. I definitely was kind of hoping that to see Domas be really aggressive, maybe take 20 shots tonight. He was definitely still passive. I think that's kind of just in his nature. I do think it's best for him he wasn't going to be able to win this game by himself. So he was going to need one of his teammates or a couple of his teammates to give him something tonight. Domas is just never going to be a 35 point a game scorer. I don't know if he necessarily has that in his bag. And if he could get everyone else going, I think that would be a lot more beneficial than just him kind of looking for his own game and kind of just kind of ISOing himself and trying to post up Miles Turner. I think the option I do like the fact that he still tried to be a ball mover today, but I definitely will agree with you in the fact that I wouldn't have been mad if he was a little more aggressive today. I think you could have lived with him, even percentage wise. This was a very inefficient game from him, 6 of 13, under 50% from the field. I can't remember the last time I saw Sabonis finish under 50% from the field, but I would have liked to still see him take a couple more shots. Like I said, kind of getting that 17 to 20 shots range, and he finished with 13 shots. So I don't disagree. Definitely would have liked to see him step up. I think Kings fans saw how much Fox Sabonis should be second in command with the team's interesting. We need to go after Josh Richardson. You sound like my buddy old pal Brendan Nunez, who has been very high on Josh Richardson. I don't quite get it. I think Josh Richardson is a slightly better Terrence Davis. And sure, that's fine. That's a really good player, but I just don't necessarily think that that's like a need. It's a good piece to have. I'm not saying he's not a good NBA player and not somebody who deserves to be in rotation, but I just don't necessarily think. I think the Kings have a lot more bigger needs, whether that be backup center or backup point guard, like I mentioned, or a backup wing, or even just a guy who, and maybe Josh Richardson could fill into this role, but just another guy to add to their rotation. I think they could definitely use a guy that they can trust on any given night to be productive off the bench. And Malik at times has been that, but we've especially recently seen the inconsistency in Malik's game. And especially on a night like tonight, you see how Malik Monk can really, really hurt you on a given night. Though we haven't, I will give Malik credit. It has been a lot more good Malik nights than, oh, Malik is really like actively hurting us and making us lose. So, but he has it in his bag for sure to blow games. Josh Hart, another good shout. I really like Josh Hart's game. He's a fantastic rebounder for someone his size. He's a decent shooter, somebody who's not really ever gonna get in the way or try and force his shot. So I do like that, but I don't know if you're falling into that category like I talked about earlier of what are your pieces that you're trading off for him. Josh Hart is a fringe starter. So, could again, a Terrence Davis and a second round pick get that done? I don't know. It's really tough. I don't think the Kings necessarily have the war chest or the pieces to trump other people's deals. I think that they have the pieces to get deals done if maybe they don't have a lot of competition on the deals. But for example, a lot of talk has been about Matisse Thybulle and the Kings potentially trading for him. And the best that they can really offer would be a Terrence Davis, maybe a Rashawn Holmes, who I mentioned why his value is so tough. But you probably have to throw in a couple second round draft picks as well. Whereas I just think draft picks really doesn't do Philly much good. Terrence Davis maybe gets some minutes for Philadelphia. Rashawn Holmes, again, kind of maybe plays that backup to Joel Embiid, but I just don't think that's necessarily going to move the needle a lot for Philly. So, that could be a similar issue for the Kings. Or a common problem, I should say, for the Kings, where they just kind of can't piece together enough to get the deal done. Patty Mills would be a decent option at backup point guard. Completely agree with that. Love Patty Mills. Love Patty Mills' game. He is getting a little bit long in the tooth, so maybe 1 or 2 more years of Patty, but and we could have the double Aussie. We could have Delly and Patty Mills, which I am all for. I think that would be incredible, and we would officially be Australia's second team, or Australia's team, actually. Let's see here. Call Trey Burke from Stockton. That's interesting. That is definitely interesting. Maybe as a potential backup point guard option, Trey Burke has shown ability to be a backup in this league. I think he played for Dallas last year and played okay in a backup role. That's that's definitely, I think I like Trey Burke a whole lot more as a third point guard than your actual backup point guard, but in a break in case of emergency kind of thing, or if the Kings do end up trading Davion Mitchell at the trade deadline to get a similar value piece at a different position, I think I could live with Trey Burke at backup point guard for sure. All right. I think that's where I'm going to end it today. 39 minutes, just hit 40 on the live. So that feels like a good time to wrap it up. Didn't really talk much about the Pacers tonight. A lot of Kings talk. Let's just quickly go down the stats just to wrap things up. Buddy Hield had an incredible night. Of course, you knew eventually Buddy was going to have his Sacramento Kings revenge game. 21 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 8 of 15 from the field, 5 of 9 from 3. Tyrese Halliburton, also former Sacramento King, struggles tonight. 10 points, 9 assists, 4 of 12 from the field, 2 of 7 from 3 in his only second game back, coming back from a knee and an elbow injury. You see him with that huge pad on his elbow. But Pacers finally get a win. They're only their second win in their last 14 games. On the Kings side of things, Harrison Barnes led the team in scoring 23 points, 7 of 12 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. Domantas Sabonis in his return to Indiana, 15 points, 16 rebounds, 6 assists. I'm going to give my king of the night to Harrison Barnes. Shout out Harrison. Really, as I mentioned earlier, stepped up without De'Aaron Fox playing tonight. And although the Kings didn't get the win, I think it was good to see Harrison kind of step out of that, that thing that he's really been known for his entire career. A lot of guys in his position are talked a lot about the fact that they disappear, like a Tobias Harris, like an Andrew Wiggins, guys who are really, really good one night, and then for the next 2 nights will give you under 10 points and just really feel like they didn't make much of an impact. On a night like tonight when De'Aaron doesn't play, Kings needed Harrison to step up, and he absolutely did that. So big ups to Harrison. And I hope Domantas feels good about his return, and it's unfortunate that they couldn't get the win tonight. And for Domas, I know it would have meant a lot. But sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. Kings now are 2-2 on their 7-game road trip. They will play Sunday against the New Orleans Pelicans before ending the road trip in Houston on Monday and Wednesday on a back-to-back there. We will have Sactown Sports recaps after all of those games. Be sure to tune in tomorrow, like I said, 11 o'clock from 11 to noon right here on Sactown Sports 1140. Where you will hear Kings Weekly with myself, Chris Watkins. We are there every single Saturday at 11 o'clock. So please be sure to tune in right here to the Sactown Sports 1140 YouTube channel, where you can check that out as well. Kings lose. Sucks to suck in Domantas Sabonis's return to Indiana. 107-104. That's going to do it for tonight. Again, please be sure to tune in tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock for Kings Weekly with myself, Chris Watkins. Y'all have a good night and enjoy the weekend. Go Kings. See you Sunday.